Oh, such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 45% off select styles, plus a professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Hey, Atlanta. Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise Podcast. It's been a while, but it's time to remember this crap with Mike Donahue. Mike, how are you?
Not bad. Can't complain. Probably better than Alvin Williams this week.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just can't say.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows what's going on with
What
Alvin.
if he had to resign because he has some affliction that is causing him to have like a continuous 60-day orgasm?
I've heard strange.
Might not be so bad, right? I can't coach.
Right? It's health related.
Still can't straighten my legs. All right, coach. Floos is going to take over. It'll be fine.
Does Floos know yet? Do we know?
Do you know why Allen quit?
Well, because I heard that the players had not been communicated with as recently as this afternoon. I'm sure by now.
I heard that today the Floos went around to every position group meeting room and met individually with every one of the... So he met with every player. And they talked about the Allen Williams situation. Now, what he told them, I don't know.
I called him Alvin. Yes.
Allen, what's the difference?
Yeah, sorry. He wasn't there long enough for me to remember. I know he's been around a while. Well, that's good because, and of course, that would be in lockstep with an organization that, of course, has always been very buttoned down and consistent and, clear in their communication and messaging and all of that. So I'm happy to hear that.
Well, it was quite a day at Hallis Hall on Wednesday, September 20th. And because Remember This Crap, and this Remember This Crap is actually about remembering great games, or at least games, between the Bears and this week's opponent, the Kansas City Chiefs.
And a brief history of the Chiefs therein, but yes.
There's a gleam, man. There's a gleam. Actually, I think Marty might have said that with the Chargers, but still, same guy. We thought we'd start with, so yesterday with that, there was Justin Fields, may or may not have blamed the coaching for all of his struggles. Then they had practice, where we found out first that Allen Williams, who's the defensive coordinator, who hasn't been around for a while, was not going to be around.
Which we knew he
still
was
not around. We knew that.
Just to recap, I was not at the game. That was an announcement. It seemed a little off, but we weren't too preoccupied with it at the time.
So then the Bears practice, and after the practice, Justin Fields called the reporters around in the locker room to chastise them for taking his words out of context. And he was not blaming anything on the coaches. At the same time, on Twitter or X, whatever it's called, news was breaking that the FBI was raiding Halas Hall, and this is the best part, former Bear Charles Peanut Tillman was leading the raid, because he's in the FBI, and he was making Matt Eberflus cry. This was all stuff that got reported. And there was actual, like, people you've heard of on Twitter retweeting it, and then people like whoever Bill Zimmerman is. He is a longtime Bears fan who is like a producer for Sirius XM Sports, was tweeting stuff like, oh, if you're hearing, if you knew the rumors I was hearing about Alan Williams would be very disturbing.
Sure, because those are rumors that alleged hard drive, FBI, and raid. So I don't think anyone really needs to connect dots in this day and age.
No, but they were also, I mean, it's so consistent with the cesspool that Twitter... The even bigger cesspool that Twitter is now than what it even was before, Electric Carboy bought it. Then the QAnon fringe jumps on, and immediately they raise it to DEFCON 5, where it's child trafficking, and it's very disturbing. And there's people like. Yeah, going on Twitter. What the hell is going on with the Bears? Oh my God, it's the worst day in Bears history. Blah blah blah. So it seems to have, Alan Williams resigned for personal reasons. The Bears put out a statement debunking the fact the FBI didn't raid his house. The FBI never came to Halas Hall. Peanut Tillman was not peanut punching. Dudes.
The most disappointing part
they
was
did not refute the fact that Peanut made Matt Eberflus cry. We don't know. It may have still happened. Maybe there was a harshly worded text or phone call.
I'm hearing that one just now, by the way. That I hadn't heard until 100 seconds ago, and I'm dying.
Apparently, it was Peanut was breaking the news to Matt about what Alan had done, and that was making him cry. It's like, for fuck's sakes.
Picturing Peanut just punching the laptop out of whatever those baseless rumors were.
So now we don't. I was going to say, we don't know what the personal issues with Alan Williams are. Frankly, I don't know why we care, unless they are something like horribly criminal. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But what it got us thinking about was people were saying this is the worst day most embarrassing day in Bears history. Maybe if that stuff had all been true, it might have been. But since it seems like almost all of it wasn't true, except for the Justin Fields stuff. These are the Bears we're talking about. This is not even close to the top of the list of embarrassing Bear stuff. So I think you and I need to try to remember as much of the embarrassing, humiliating stuff that's happened. And
sure.
I know you immediately thought of Dave McGinnis finding out that he had been named the coach while he was driving to the airport and had never been offered the job.
So that has always been the leader in the clubhouse for me. And when these rumors were being whipped up, ginned up, and we were all sort of going there, so to speak, my comment was that one might have to now take a back seat, which obviously it doesn't. So I don't think we're ranking these, and I'd like to hear explore a few more. But
order.
Right. But that one has always stood out as just the most shaking your damn head. Why do I root for this franchise day? So we've talked about it here, but that's up there. That's one.
See, I immediately thought of two things. One that happened in Halas Hall, the other that didn't. The one that happened in Halas Hall was during the John Fox era. I think the Cowboys had cut Jeremiah Ratliff because of a DWI, and the Bears signed him. And he played pretty well for them. And then all of a sudden, one day he showed up at Halas Hall, and he was threatening to kill John Fox and several other people affiliated with the Bears, and he had to be arrested and hauled out of the lobby. So that one, I think, is pretty high.
Yeah. And they've done a good job of tamping that one down, because it must have happened right. I don't recall that it was obviously an event that day, and there's probably police are running to Lake Forest, blah blah blah, to Halas Hall, whatever, Badge McCaskey Drive. So yeah, it could have gone like Javon Belcher. Was that the guy with the Chiefs who
shot
like,
himself,
showed up?
Killed his girlfirend or whatever, and then drove to Arrowhead and
that
shot
was
himself in the
horrifying.
parking lot.
So that's pretty eventful for sure.
Yeah.
Up there at Hallis Hall. Yep.
The other one I thought of that didn't happen in the facility happened during a blizzard when former Bear, it was current Bear at the time, Alonso Spellman, who had checked himself into for lack of a better word, the psych ward of a local hospital, escaped in the middle of a blizzard barefoot.
Correct. A spring blizzard, I should add. It was in March. I was actually in Mesa for the first time and watching WGN in our hotel room from Arizona. You're right, not at Hallis Hall, but close enough because it was way up north. Because a lot of players live up there. Hallis Hall is in Lake County, so let's just say they're north of Lake Cook Road, just a few miles west of Hallis Hall. That was definitely that same type of thing. Another thing that happened north of Lake Cook Road, but not at Hallis Hall, would be the FBI gun range incident that resulted in a couple of Bears smashing each other in the face with dumbbells, I believe, or other weight equipment. Yeah, that was something to that effect.
Long before Olin Kreutz shoved Adam Hogue into a locker at Chuggo, he broke Fred Miller's jaw at a happy offensive line bonding event.
Is there any other kind?
Yeah, there was that.
That was not a good Bears team, by the way.
Yeah.
But that.
When was did the Tank Johnson thing happen during the Super Bowl year? He got arrested with all the guns.
It was, and it was very frustrating because they could have used a focused Tank Johnson as Tommy was breaking down. And there are two incidences. One, again, was pretty sure is Tank's home, which, like I said, a lot of players will live near Hallis Hall because it's convenient, because that's where they work 5 days of the week. So you don't need to live downtown, because we all know how hard it is to get to Soldier Field. Anyway, so but up there in Libertyville or whatever by his home, Tank got not far from Hallis Hall. Tank got busted with a whole cache of guns. But then also, like a week later, after he was out on bail or whatever, he got arrested in the city outside of a River North nightclub. So that one actually did kind of go south of the border, I guess, into the city. But it was still kind of felt like something that happened up there, or Hallis Hall up there near Lake Forest area. So not technically, it's still, I think it fits the criteria what we're discussing here. We didn't mention Sam Hurd, proud alum of NIU, as we are.
It's an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur who had his business interrupted by the feds.
Yeah. I guess the qualifiers at Hallis Hall, it's basically things that happen not on the field that have to be dealt with out of Hallis Hall.
Yeah.
And they usually happen up there. Like Sam, of course, was doing an international drug ring. That was not relegated to Lake County. But news breaks, and then here comes the crack team of PR professionals that may or may not have the last name of McCaskey to the rescue.
I mean, perhaps he studied international business at the Barcelona School of Business at Northern Illinois University. It's possible. And he was just,
you never know,
putting his learning to use.
Yes.
We had that. One of my favorite things about Tank Johnson was on that Super Bowl season, Tank had to wear his full name on his jersey because the Bears had a safety named Todd Johnson, and that's the only way you could tell the two apart.
They're identical.
It's like,
if you don't know what we're saying, folks, just Google Tank Johnson, Todd Johnson, 2006 Bears.
It's basically just like Vance and Rudy Law being twins. I never understand why teams put like first initials or full names with the last name. You're wearing a number. That's how you could differentiate the two. Like, you can have Johnson number 99 and Johnson number 32, and you probably could figure out which one's which without Todd or Tank. And the fact that he had Tank on not his actual name, he said Tank. Yeah, so we had those. Our good friend John Greenberg pointed out some that were embarrassing, but maybe not. They don't rise to the criminal level of some of these. There was, I guess his title under Trustman, Aaron Kromer was offensive coordinator, I think, even though it was Trustman's offense. Okay. He's got to have the title. He had badmouthed Jay. And it got out. and he had to call a press conference and basically apologize for saying bad things about his quarterback. John also pointed out, remember the time that Trestman benched Jay so he could get a good look at Jimmy Clausen. And then didn't Jimmy get immediately hurt? And he was only in for a possession.
I do remember. I remember the second part of that.
And there's Jay back out there again. And if you think he didn't give a shit before, wait till you see him come off the bench.
I'm also reminded of the awkward transfer of power from when Michael was basically publicly reprimanded by his mom and was cast out in favor of Ted Phillips, and that was kind of when George moved. That was after the Dave McGinnis fight. I remember driving around listening to that one from Alice Hall.
How about the time George got his potty mouth out and said that his mom was pissed? For George, he's probably still embarrassed that he used such vulgar language. There's one that's a lot less known, but back in the day, Clyde Turner had to apologize publicly. He apologized to Coach Hallis, but it was he stared at Virginia's ankles for an inappropriate amount of time.
It was a long Pullman car ride to the game in D.C. and Bulldog had a couple, and
we talked about on the football podcast. Somehow we got to talk about retired numbers, and I was reading through them.
You keep saying, I wanted to correct you.
I know. I don't know why I think they retired number 5 for 2 people. I always do.
No, it's not. It's number 7. It's Hallis and Bob Avellini. No, yeah,
that's right.
5 is.
That's
right.
Right.
No, I was screaming while I was cutting the grass. Listening, I'm like, it's George McAfee.
George McAfee.
George McAfee.
I don't know why
5.
I always get that wrong.
There's no Greg Maddox, Fergie Jenkins.
But I did tell one of my favorite things about Virginia was the fact that NFL Films did this thing on the history of the Bears, and she talked about Bulldog, and she kept calling him Clyde, and it was adorable.
It's great.
The only person in the world who called him Clyde was Virginia. She's like, his mama named him Clyde. I'ma call him Clyde. That's exactly what Virginia said. Quote unquote.
That's how Badge laid it down.
I don't know. I feel like I know we're missing some. I mean, I don't know. There's things like that.
I don't know.
We thought it was cool at the time, but Jim McMahon mooning a helicopter at the Super Bowl might be on the list of embarrassing things. We loved it. The fans ate it, but the organization probably not real fond of the quarterback literally showing his ass.
Right, because they were already on their way to ushering out the Honey Bears in that season. So,
who was the guy? Who was the guy, the New Orleans sportscaster?
Buddy DiLiberto, who later on would host a show with Saints coach Mike Ditka years later on a riverboat down there.
During Super Bowl week, he said that Jim McMahon called all the women of New Orleans sluts, right? Wasn't that what he said?
Slut whores, I think, was the word he used. Yeah. Buddy DiLiberto, I believe. Yeah. Anyway.
Good stuff. I know there's more. There's people screaming at their
what's up with
phones
the Chiefs?
or dashboards or wherever, and we can't. Remember a lot of them.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it is funny.
It really depends on what your definition of humiliation is. Because if your bar is just a little bit lower, then there's an endless amount of stuff.
Look, we were Cub fans our whole lives prior to 2012, so this is starting to rank over time.
It's rank, all right.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Bernard DiLiberto passed away at the age of 74 way back in 2005. So, yeah. But I did remember that crap. Remembered his name. He'd be happy to know if he was alive that I could still pull that one out 18 years after he was gone. But
this would have been a good pod to have Pat Bukowski on.
Yeah,
I'm sure Pat probably knows stuff, from being in the locker room that we have never even heard about. I can just imagine the yarns. Go down to Fat Sam's and he's having trivia. Is Fat Sam's? It's not open anymore. But if it was, Pat would be having trivia night there, and you could win valuable prizes like a 10% coupon at Lansing Floral.
You'd think since the grabber has shuffled off that maybe Pat would be getting maybe a few more contacts to fill the void there.
Well,
but
I'll tell you, if I ran the score, that's the first call I make when the grabber left this earthly coil.
Yeah,
Pat Bukowski. Who else could replace him?
Probably, yeah. as the sports on, nobody really can because they'd all go crazy. Pat could probably do it.
If your football team had one option in their playbook, the results probably wouldn't be great. The same could be said for your investments. SIBO index options like SPX and XSP can help expand your investing strategies with cash settlement and potential tax advantages. If you're ready for a more dynamic game plan, head to betterwithoptions.com. SIBO, life is better with options. Your investments could be too. There are risks associated with SIBO company products. Review the disclosures and disclaimers at SIBO.com/US_disclaimers.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Didn't file with TurboTax last year? That's in the past. Now, Taxes is getting the TurboTax app and filing your own taxes for free if you didn't file with them last year. File by February 18th. All tax forms, all 100% free. Now, this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. New filers and filers who didn't use TurboTax last year only must start and file your own taxes in-app by February 18th. Excludes TurboTax Live. Full terms at turbotax.com.
All right, well, Bears and the Chiefs have not played as many times as you might have thought. They first met in 1973, and this matchup on Sunday will only be the 14th time that these franchises have faced each other.
Of course, the Chiefs go back to, they are a charter member, right? Yes, they would be because they were originally the Dallas Texans, charter member of the American Football League. So they go all the way back to 60.
And good old Dewey Lamar Hunt.
Yeah.
It's probably not Dewey, but, Lamar Hunt moved them to fabulous Kansas City.
He did.
And he built, I wonder, have they played in Arrowhead the whole time? Is that their only?
For a long time. Arrowhead and Kauffman have both been around compared to today's stadiums a long time. And that's a good question. That is a great question. They must have played some rinky-dink plays. Obviously, they would have played some rinky-dink plays in the early days of the AFL. I guarantee you.
That's where they play. How about this? Their first ever matchup: Chiefs-Bears. Monday night, November 12th, 1973.
I'm just going to assume it went horribly for the Bears then.
At Arrowhead Stadium. Do you know the coaching matchup?
Abe Gibron would be for the Bears. Was it Hank Stram still trailing the sidelines?
Hank Stram and Abe Gibron. And
nice.
Hank let Abe wear his toupee for the whole second half. That's what kind of guy Hank was. It was a barn burner.
Is that right?
Let's just say the first four scores of the game were all Jan Stenerud field goals. 12-0 at halftime. Jan had made a 47, a 17, a 43, and a 42-yarder.
So here's what I'm curious about, though, first of all, because like we mentioned before we come back, I want to come back to this game. But I was just thinking, Chiefs, charter franchise. Lamar Hunt gets all this credibility. He's sort of like the George House of the AFL. They get the trophy. The Chiefs were never really in that picture until the leagues merged. So I'm guessing the Chiefs were probably pretty good because they had been to they were Super Bowl IV and they won it. But yeah, so by the time the Bears by 74,
they played in Super Bowl I,
and that's right.
And Lamar named the Super Bowl.
Right. Off the Super. Right. We talked about why too. It's kind of a dumb reason, isn't it?
It's a terrible reason. His idiot kids, who own the team now, were out in on the driveway playing with a Super Ball. Those little, basically the springy ass racquetball sized ball that was in the 60s. When was the first Super Bowl? As much fun as you could ever have was that, apparently.
And so, they played in 2 of the first 4. They won 1, although, as I like to point out, they didn't win their first NFL championship till 4 years ago because they were only AFL champs when they won that Super Bowl because the leagues had merged. So by 74, I'm guessing the Chiefs were probably, I think, because when we were kids, they sucked. But I feel like that would be a real David and Goliath because the Bears, we know, by 74 were we might be competing for that nadir now, but that's definitely one of their nadirs, 74. And they're on Monday Night Football, so I just got to feel like a real lambs being led to slaughter of this game. But, luckily they're holding them and only Jan Stenerud's putting the points on the board, so that seems promising. I'm still going to guess the Bears that don't win this game.
The Chiefs moved into Arrowhead in 1972. Prior to that, they played at beautiful Municipal Stadium, which was originally built for the Kansas City Monarchs of the Negro League.
Ooh, old Negro League.
Yes.
Interesting. And probably where the Kansas City A's played, I'm sure.
So Lamar founded the Texans, and the Cowboys were already a thing in Dallas. So after a year or two, he's like, "Oh, this is stupid."
Well, it's an expansion. I think you unearthed this on a previous episode because the NFL moved up Dallas or something like that. I think to head off the AFL, they rushed the Dallas. The Cowboys, I think, came in in 61 or 62.
Yeah, I remember something.
Yeah, so I think Lamar Hunt's in Dallas, and the NFL was like, "Fuck you, we're going to put this team here." And then that might be a little bit off, but they both arrived in Dallas around the same time, and Lamar got the hell out pretty quick.
So Lamar decided to get out after the 62 season, and he considered the following places to move his franchise: Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, and Seattle.
Yeah, future franchises.
Which of those do you think was his prime, his first, the team that he want? Where do you want to go?
New Orleans?
New Orleans, but he couldn't work out a lease at Tulane Stadium. They didn't want a professional football team in New Orleans to compete with Tulane, and they didn't get one until the 90s.
Right, because even though the Saints were there, the Saints did not even resemble a professional franchise for the first 2 decades of their existence. Good call.
So this Hunt was persuaded by Kansas City Mayor H. Roe Bartle to move Texans to Kansas City after agreeing to expand Municipal Stadium to seat 49,000 fans.
And that's before the Royals, too. Royals didn't come around until 69, so a little bit about it.
Yeah, so while playing Municipal Stadium, the Chiefs shared the stadium with the A's, and in 1969 with the Royals.
There were the A's. Yeah, okay. That's right. The A's were there. There was a Major League Baseball team to help anchor it.
Yeah. There's a picture of it. It's kind of a cool-looking stadium. I'm sure it was a dump, but...
Oh, for its time. It was probably like the gem, because the Monarchs were kind of considered, I think, a premier Negro League team. I feel like wouldn't surprise me if their ballpark was pretty exceptional. Oh yeah, they were the Texans for 3 years. Yeah, and they actually won the championship. I see now in the 3rd year. And I didn't know that Hank Stram was actually their charter coach too. So he was there from the beginning. Oh, I'm looking at it now. And yeah, he was there a long time. He was getting pretty old. That was his last season, 74. And yeah, they were always pretty good then, I guess. I just always thought more of like the Raiders and Jets and Dolphins, but Dolphins came later. But so what was the final score of that Bears Chiefs tilt in 74, Andy?
19-7.
Oh.
Both teams scored a touchdown in the 3rd quarter. Carl Garrett on a 9-yard rush for the Bears.
Yeah.
The extra point was kicked by...
not Bob Thomas. It would have been Ken Granberry. No, here's a running back. Who?
Mirro Roder.
Oh, yeah. So Bob Tom, so that really was a nadir for the Bears, I'm going to say, because by the time they would play next, which I know was in '77, that's a game that we can talk about. A little bit iconic for older Bears fans. But the Bears were so awful in '74. They had moved to this antiseptic, terrible stadium that they hadn't even closed off that one end zone. Horrible turf, terrible team. But that was when they made the one decision that sort of saved them for a bit, and that was when Muggs or whoever was really in charge, brought in Jim Finks. And so the very next year they draft Walter Payton. They bring in Bob Thomas, Bob Avellini. They they turned things around. They made the playoffs. Well, they were to make the playoffs in '77, but not before a pretty epic regular season game with the Chiefs. Which I'm going to just first say, if you can visualize this, Andy, I'm sure you can. Any Bears fan of any age that's watched any NFL films on Walter Payton will recall footage of where he basically runs north and south. He probably runs about 100 yards on the play, avoids about 30 tackles, breaks a few, and scores against the Chiefs. That's at Soldier Field. And it's this wild-ass game. And the Bears squeaked into the playoffs. This is before our time, but I would hear my brothers talk about it in this game in particular. Greg Latta had the winning touchdown, 88, the tight end. But I just know they were down big, and they just came all the way back. And, of course, they would prove to need it because they would break what, to this day, believe it or not, is still the longest postseason drought in this proud franchise's history at that point, snapping a streak of 14 years. So, yeah, that's the first time the Chiefs come to Chicago too.
I don't know. Walter didn't have that good a game. 33 attempts for just 192 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That's it?
Yep. They held him to it. Ed Podolak ran for 102 yards for the Chiefs, and he had run for 132 yards against them in the first game. So the first 2 games in this proud history, Ed Podolak ran for 100 yards against the Bears.
At one point, this Ed Podolak was the all-time leading rusher in the Bears-Chiefs rivalry. Although absolutely. Yeah, Peyton would just need another game to take him down, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the Chiefs got out to. Well, you may have said this while I was looking at stats. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
The Chiefs were up 17-0 at the half. Did you say that?
Yeah.
No, you did that.
No, I hadn't looked at it. I know it was a huge comeback.
Yeah. The Bears were down. Let's see. The Bears took their first lead no, they didn't. They were down 17-0 at the half. They got 17-7. Then Peyton scored again to cut it to 3. But then Stener kicked a field goal. And then Walter gave the Bears the lead in the fourth quarter on a 15-yard touchdown run. Bob Thomas made the extra point. That a boy, Bob. Always a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But then the great Ed Podolak took the lead right back for the Chiefs. And the Bears won on a 37-yard pass from Bob Avellini and Greg Latta.
Yes.
And Bob Thomas had to make the extra point to win it, and he did.
Uh-huh.
According to this, the Bears were 6.5-point favorites. I love this fact that Football Reference can find a Vegas line.
Well, all you need to do is get a microfiche of that day's newspaper, because the latest line was always in the sports page.
Or they just went to the Jimmy the Greek estate and went through his file cabinet.
Sure, he's got it all digitized. So yeah, it's a pretty epic game. Like I said, you'll see Peyton break off this crazy play at his peak. I mean, 77 was Peyton. He was the MVP that year. He rushed for 1,800 yards. And by the end of the season, everyone knew who he was. Of course, after this game, the Bears were only 4-5. So it was one of these high wire acts. And it was really kind of an interesting thing. If you're a Bears, if you can think about the Bears historically, as sad as they've been since '85, they were they were uninterrupted in their success from 1920 on. All those championships, even when they didn't go, they're all, very rarely would they have, say, 3 consecutive seasons of, not contending. And so all of a sudden, after the championship in '63, they enter their first dark age. So it was unprecedented. And then '77 doesn't start out too promising. But eventually they would get it right and squeak into the playoffs, and they get summarily drummed out by the eventual champ Cowboys. But there it is.
They give to Peyton on a sweep to the right side. He gets a block from Reeve. Sorry, spins back inside. Ripped by one man, still on his feet. Struggles away at the 20. Still battling. Breaks away at the 15. The 10. The 5. And down to the 4 line. Sensational run by Walter Peyton. He brought for tackle.
I love it. That's Joe McConnell, by the way.
The high quality audio YouTube's got on that.
No, that's good stuff. And I love the radio. I love that you got the radio call. That's Joe McConnell, by the way, who was the preceded Wayne Larrivee. It might have been Brad Palmer. I don't know, as far back in 77 doing the color. But yeah, like that play right there. Imagine you're a Bears fan and like you've endured for the first time this embarrassing stretch of irrelevance and futility, and you've got this great goddamn running back, and then you're 3-5 going against this old AFL team, ball behind, and Peyton pulls off that play. It propelled them, like I said. It would, Peyton was still on the team in '85, but the '77 team wouldn't really go anywhere. But any fans alive now, even old timers, like they were kids when they would remember that season fondly. And that particular Bears Chiefs game, I hope I did it justice because it's not one that I personally lived through, but it's there. So they would have met the next time in 1980. But because one or the other team sucked and finished 5th, they didn't face each other. And then
and I thought you were going to say they just canceled the season early. They didn't. We're not playing Bears Chiefs. Nobody cares.
Or it's that, or actually they may have shifted it because the league went to a 16-game schedule. What was the next year? Did they play in '81? Was that what it was? That's what it was. So when they shifted to a 16-game schedule in '78, then they redid the every whatever. So I guess they didn't play in 78, but they played in 81 then? Is that, or maybe they were both playing a 5th place schedule in 77, and that's why they faced each other. They otherwise would have faced each other in 78. That's my guess. Anyway, so 81.
Yeah, they played November 8th, 1981 at Arrowhead.
With a young Joe Delaney.
The 2-6 Bears against the 6-3 Chiefs. And the Bears.
Chiefs were decent.
The Bears won. And all the stars played for the Bears. Ricky Watts got a 12-yard touchdown pass from Vince Evans. John Roveto made 3 field goals and an extra point.
A reminder, friends, that this is the brief interlude between Bob Thomas 1 and Bob Thomas 2.
And it made people appreciate Bob Thomas.
Bob Thomas.
Because John Roveto sucked. He's kind of the Carlos Huerta of his time.
Good call.
Who was playing quarterback for the Chiefs in 1981?
Was it future Bear Steve Fuller?
Future Bear Super Bowl champion.
Super Bowl shuffler.
Playoff victor.
Yeah, it's one of the very few. That's a good call.
It's just him and there. Kramer?
Steve Walsh.
That's right. Regular Bears starting quarterback has never won a road playoff game.
Correct. They've both been backups wearing number 4. Also,
since the merger. Right.
Oh,
I mean,
true.
Sid, I'm sure. Sid won some.
I don't know who's backing up. You did.
Since color TV
at Griffith Stadium,
it's just good. You have to be a backup wearing number 4. Tyson Bagent should walk in and request a number change today.
It's a no-brainer. Also, not a Bears connection, but a Chicago connection, because I believe the coach patrolling the sideline opposite Neil Armstrong was Chicago very own Marv Levy.
Wouldn't it have been great if they had let I was going to say Gus Grissom. But that wouldn't.
Gus Grim?
Gus was dead. No, it'd be funny if they had a different astronaut, Jim Lovell or somebody, come in to coach against Neil Armstrong in the game. I didn't say these jokes were good, gang.
Instead, they got Marv Levy, who may have gotten an A in physics at whatever Chicago high school he went to.
Did he call any of the officials an officious jerk during the game?
No, but I've used officious in my time, even sometimes berating my own umpires, as you know I'm wont to do. Thanks to you, over officious jerk. Marv, not that successful with the Chiefs. Neither was Steve Fuller. And they weren't successful that day.
I didn't even notice this. Yeah, it was Marv against the John Roveto game winner in overtime.
Yeah, and I think he did the same thing against the Chargers.
He didn't make many, but he made him count.
I want to say John Roveto also beat the Chargers, which is very unlikely that this lousy. The Bears in '81, by the way, were very bad. Another low point. Seems like every time the Bears. 77. These are Neil Armstrong's last day. This is actually Bears Chiefs 81 is the antecedent to the only good period that was about to occur for the Bears when they jettisoned Armstrong and brought in Ditka. It was some of it was already in play because they had guys like Singletary was a rookie. They had Hampton, they had Peyton, But yeah, another sort of low point, like in '74 when the Bears face off with the Chiefs.
So this is funny. I don't know why I'm obsessed with John Roveto. I remembered him like shanking extra points for his career as a Bear, though.
Never did.
29 of 30. He made 96.7% of extra points. Field goals, though. Remember Wayne? We made fun of Wayne Weaver and his terrible field goal percentage.
Because he kicked for the Lions like in the 60s or something.
So John Roveto kicking in the 80s, a modern NFL kicker, for his career with the Bears, was 14 of 31 field goals. 45%. He missed 17 field goals in parts of 2 seasons.
And yet, he kicked 2 game winners in 3 weeks. One of them again, which is like, I remember watching this. So I wasn't crazy about Roveto, but I do remember that he won 2 games. The one against the Chiefs, fine, because the Chiefs, well, I don't know how good they were at that point. But the Chargers were an absolute juggernaut. So that's just one of those weird-ass games that the Bears had no business winning in the first place because, and we talked also, Andy, the Chiefs game were they both at Soldier Field? I think the Chiefs game was in Kansas City. I know the Chargers game was at Soldier Field. I know the Chargers game was at Soldier Field because you and I talked about when the Bears were on NBC. It was always a different kind of a look. It was kind of, I can't even put my finger on it. It's like Don Criqui is in town, and here's Dan Fouts. It was very exciting and I know we're not doing Bears Chargers, but we will. So we should probably shut up and cover it later. But so we'll talk about John.
I got a good
Roveto,
20 minutes on Ralph Benirschke. Shitting into a colostomy bag hosting Wheel of Fortune. Where did you get to that?
And I should also, I also wanted to be mentioned that this is the one time the Bears faced Joe Delaney, who was a good running back, but would perish.
Not a strong
thereafter.
swimmer.
Not a strong swimmer. Very good running back. Not a strong swimmer. So it was like a matchup where we had the Regal, the premier running back in the world, even though our teams weren't that good.
Wasn't Joe Delaney? Wasn't he name dropped by Walter Payton after he broke Jim Brown's running record?
Was he?
In my mind, I know he talked about Joe Delaney. He talked about like great running backs who didn't, he's basically talking about how fortunate he was to have the career he had and whatever. And he talked about great running backs that never had a chance. And he mentions Joe Delaney by name.
Then absolutely. Delaney was pretty, look, he was in the AFC and we were familiar with him. So, I think for a couple of years, I don't trying to pull him up actually. He seemed like he was a pretty household name early on in his career. He had a short career because he died pretty early, but kind of made an impact. Go ahead.
He only played 81 and then the strike shortened season 82.
2 seasons. So he's just a rookie. What did he do that rookie year? That 81.
Rookie year ran for 1,100 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
Had the longest rush in the league at 82 yards that year. Averaged almost 5 yards per carry. The next year in the strike year, he played all 8 games. Gained 380 yards. So yeah, he only carried the ball 329 times in the NFL, 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns.
So not that great, but like a definite good rookie season. Whatever. I mean, it doesn't make it any less sad if it cut down pretty early. The Chiefs in 81 were actually a decent team, but they weren't really a team you thought of when you thought of AFC teams in that era in 81. So by 84, they must have bottomed out because they were probably playing that 5th place schedule because I know the Bears did not play the Chiefs in 84.
No, they did not. They did not play again until
I remember this game in 87.
The other strike season, 1987.
Post-strike. This is another. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to pull it up myself, but I feel like this is another game where the Bears had to come back. But what's different is this is after the Super Bowl with a really good team, and I feel like the Bears did this a lot after the Super Bowl. Would be like just toy with teams, because the Bears had a ridiculous record. They went 15-1, then 14-2, then 14-3, or so like whatever, like 12, 11, and whatever. They were losing only 2 or 3 games a year, and a lot of times they would like be behind with their shitty quarterbacks to mediocre teams. And it'd be low-scoring games. They'd be trailing and looking incompetent, and then they would just somehow pull it out. So how'd that work out?
This one, they were trailing 14 in the third quarter and scored the final 17 points. They did not, however, have one of their shitty quarterbacks playing. It was
Jimmy Mack.
Jimmy McMahon was 23 of 34 for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Nice.
Walter, though, only carried the ball 8 times for 15 yards. I mean, this was his final season.
It was his final season. Yeah, his
Neal, they loaded up. Neal Anderson, 17 carries for 59 yards. So they weren't running much probably because they were so far behind. They were chucking. And when you have, listen to this assortment of incredible weapons that they had to throw to.
Did they not even have Willie anymore?
Willie Gall, 4 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cap Bozo caught 4 passes for 51 yards and a touchdown. Pinky 2 for 24.
Of course.
Silky D 1 for 12, and Emery Moorhead 1 for 5. That's it. Those are the. Well, actually, no. I should. Walter caught 5 for 31, and Neal caught 6 for 66. So throwing to the backs a lot.
Spreading it around.
Luke Getsy would approve of the game plan.
Oh God, yes. And I think the Chiefs in '87. Well, they couldn't have been that awful because again, we're still operating on. If you were really bad, you had to play a 5th place schedule. But anyway, I feel like this was really kind of a real nothing era for the Chiefs until Marty Schottenheimer shows up. Is there anything else?
The quarterback.
Need to add with something.
Quarterback for the Chiefs was the great Bill Kenny, not Kenny.
Kenny.
Where was
I remember
one of the Iowa. Arizona State and Northern Colorado.
I didn't know his college. I remember Kenny is kind of dueling it out with both Steve Fuller and.
How about this? In 1983, Bill Kenny, playing all 16 games for the Chiefs, did something no Bear quarterback has ever done.
He threw for 4,000 yards?
He threw for almost 4,400 yards. In 1983, he led the league
in
completions and attempts, 4,348 yards, threw 24 touchdowns, threw 18 interceptions. Made the Pro Bowl. He was their quarterback for, the primary quarterback, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Until 90.
For 5 seasons of his however many year career this is.
Okay, okay.
Bill
the team's
good old number 9. I actually remembered what number he was.
Yeah, no, I remember Bill Kenny, and I would never have guessed that he had a 4,400 yard passing season though.
The running back for those Chiefs.
I know. Can I guess?
Yes.
Christian Okoye,
yes.
Was he a rookie?
The Nigerian Nightmare.
Remember they drafted
93.
They drafted Paul Palmer and Christian Okoye. While Paul Palmer had more, like Okoye kind of came on late in scout size, but Palmer was like a supposed Heisman candidate out of Temple. And the Chiefs drafted him and Okoye, and Okoye had a pretty nice career, right? He probably ended up rushing for 5,000 to 10,000 yards, maybe.
48.97. His big year was 1989. He led the NFL with 1,480 yards.
He was a bruiser, so
he only rushed for 1,000 yards twice, 91 and 89.
Okay, I overrated him a little bit,
but he's
better than Paul Palmer though.
In 1989, he was a Pro Bowler. He was came in 4th in Offensive Player of the Year voting, and was first team Associated Press. Let's see, Offensive Player of the Year here are the 3 players. I believe all of them Hall of Famers. The 3 players who got more votes for Offensive Player of the Year than Christian Okoye.
Yeah, Christian Okoye.
Those are Joe Montana, Hall of Famer, first ballot. Jerry Rice, first ballot Hall of Famer, and Don Makowski, also first ballot Hall of Famer.
Jesus,
from the Packers.
Fucking Christ, you got to be kidding me.
Don Makowski threw for 4,318 yards that year.
Yeah, and 12 that shouldn't have counted. I thought that Marty Schottenheimer arrived in Kansas City in 1990, but I see that he was there in '89.
Frank Gansz.
Yeah, he was a special teams coach.
Yep.
He got promoted after future Illinois coach John Makovic got fired. I want to say. And I remember it was weird. Like special teams coaches don't get promoted to head. Of course, Mike Ditka, of course, was the most popular coach in America by then. But yeah, like Gansz got promoted, and then Makovic would resurface and actually got to be considered one of the more successful Illinois coaches, I would have to say, sadly enough, even though he was only there for like 3 years.
Yeah,
he brought Jeff George over.
As good as he was like Mike White, except without getting your team put on probation.
Right, without all the tarnish. Yeah, right. So.
Frank Gansz coached 2 years, 87 and 88. He was 8-22-1. He was a Navy man. Navy man. He didn't know what to do landlocked in the middle of Missouri. He didn't know what to do.
Get on the Columbia River. So 1990 is like the last days of Ditka. So there's one thing that I always think about when I think about Bears Chiefs. I know it happened in early December. And then there's one fact that we've talked about a number of times, and it's kind of a funny event because you don't see it every day. But for the entire rookie season of this player's, the entire length of this rookie season, we were waiting for him to show that electricity. And finally, when the Chiefs came to Soldier Field for another Bears team sputtering down the stretch, Johnny Bailey not only finally returned a punt, but it's really dumb when you think about it. Returning 95-yard punt, which I believe is still the longest in Bears history, or did it recently get passed and I can't remember? I should look that up because I got the Bears media guy.
Considering you're not supposed to return a punt from inside the 5, and he did get yelled at by Ditka for it.
That's all I remember about that. And I'll also say that Marty Schottenheimer finally made the Chiefs relevant because he brought them to the playoffs and he resurrected. Do you remember Steve DeBerg? He was he was always kind of there as a backup in a pinch, with Joe Montana and John Elway. And he got he was 38 years old in 1990 and took the Chiefs to the playoffs, and then they lost a heartbreaking playoff game. I believe 1990 was the first year of the expanded wild card too. So
okay, Johnny Bailey's 95-yarder. This list is wrong. He's not on it. We got proof. Oh no, there it is. He's on here. He's on here. It's number 2 in Bears history. Number 1 was set 2 years ago.
And we can't even remember it. How sad is that? I'm looking in the media guide.
You'll remember the game. It was the ridiculous Packer game towards the end of the Matt Nagy regime when the Bears scored 28 points in the first half but gave up 35 or whatever, and Nagy in his halftime report talked about how much fun they were having. Jakeem Grant had a 97-yarder. Johnny's was 95 yards, was second. This is quite a list. Dennis McKinnon, Johnny only broke the record by a yard. Dennis McKinnon had a 94-yarder in 87. Glenn Milburn had a 93-yarder in 98. The great, your favorite, as a kid growing up, Ray McClain had an 89-yarder in 1942. And the picture, he's really chugging. It looks like his pants are falling down. Probably were.
As was the style at the time.
Devin Hester had an 89-yarder against the Seahawks in 2010. Devin had an 89-yarder against the Vikings.
Here we go.
Oh, that was quite a game.
Now that you're outside the 20-yard line, now you're going to see a whole bunch of Devin Hester returns because smart enough not to field them at the 5.
So Devin, 89-yarder against the Vikings. How about this? Jeff Fisher.
Ooh,
an 88-yarder.
He caught it to 12
against the Bucks.
Gail
Sayers, 85 yards.
Was that in the 6 touchdown game?
Against the Packers. Oh, you're right.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
No, it's 49.
Oh, I see. Larry Mayer's writing the damn captions. 56 years to the day before Grant's 97-yard return. Sayers returned upon 85 yards during his NFL record-tying 6-touchdown game in a 16-20 rout of the Niners. You were right. Yeah. And then number 10, Devin Hester again, 84 yards against the Packers. And that would have been his very first touchdown in the NFL. That was in that 26-0 shutout.
Yeah, first time the Packers were shut out on opening day at home. So we did that. Jakeem Grant. I memory hold it, and I'm not going to apologize for it because
I remember when I saw it. When I saw it on this list.
Yeah, I'm not going to apologize for it. I'll tell you everything that happened in the 80s and 90s and the aughts, but I can't even tell you them 2 years ago because fuck that.
In my mind,
and it happened.
Johnny Bailey will always
turn the game off. Yes. Yes, and like I said, it was like a late season. It was like it would have become an all too familiar trend where the Bears would always start off hot, and then they were, the Chiefs were good, but they came into Soldier Field. The Bears, that's the only offense they have is Johnny Bailey running through 11 Chiefs for a touchdown. And then we would kind of enter this dark age where the Chiefs were always kind of good in the 90s, but they never broke through, right? Remember, because they had even after Schottenheimer, I couldn't even tell you who was coaching them throughout the 90s. Maybe it was Schottenheimer. Remember, they had Derek Thomas, and then who was the other? Derek Thomas is the guy that died. Who was the other awesome defensive player they had? I can't remember now. Neil Smith, exactly. And I remember when they played in 96. Did they play 93? Yes, 93, I remember. I remember watching that game from the right side of the bar at the Crystal Pistol in DeKalb. Did Percy Snow play on the 93 Bears? I want to say the Bears got a turnover late deep in the Chiefs. That game was at Arrowhead. And then there's a Bears team that missed the playoffs but was alive. They were in a stretch of kind of exciting games where they lost some tough ones, and they pulled this one out. And I think they had Tim Worley in the backfield too, for that matter. But late in the game, there was I want to say, I don't even want to say Percy Snow because I might be totally wrong on dating it. Got a turnover, and that high-powered Bears off. Well, 93, Jim Harbaugh would have been the quarterback. Somehow the Bears pulled out some weird, ugly, unlikely game against the Chiefs.
Wani was a coach now.
Yeah, no, that's all you have to say.
I'm sure he'll.
Right.
I keep waiting. I'm sure he'll be named Bears defensive coordinator here in a couple of days. Right?
Can't wait.
I'll be just the interim. That'd be great.
They were
no Percy Snow on the stat sheet, but Tim Worley did have a 25-yard touchdown run for the Bears.
Okay. Were there any turnovers?
Total number 38. The only I don't believe there were. Let's see. The Bears didn't get any turnovers. Jim Harbaugh.
Okay.
No, that's not right. Dave Craig threw a pick. Who did he throw it to? Interception.
Yes. That's right. Dave Craig was the Chiefs quarterback briefly.
Jeremy Lincoln.
Okay. Somehow I thought Percy Snow might have been involved in the play.
But Neil Anderson had a fumble return. Did he also have a fumble?
Very unlikely victory too. The Bears were 4-5, and the Chiefs were 7-2, and the Chiefs would finish 11-5. But yeah, you're right because we had Wannstedt.
Yeah, the Bears won it on a Neil Anderson 1-yard rush. Kevin Butler made the extra point. The Bears win 19-17.
Yeah, so
the Bears rushed for 185 yards, led by Neil Anderson. No, led by Tim Worley with 59 yards. Jim Harbaugh had 56, and then Neil 50.
Okay.
Another great, just all the stars on the stat sheet. Worley, Ironhead Hayward, six carries for 18 yards.
Moment of silence.
Robert Green had a carry for 10 yards. Keith Jennings, 2 for 24 catches. Tom Waddle caught 3 for 19. Terry Obie caught 1 for 9. Chris Gedney, I'm sure lacerated something, caught 1 for 5. Is this the one where he ran into the goalpost? And Curtis Conway.
That was against Buffalo in 94.
Seaway held to 1 catch for 4 yards.
Yeah, he was a rookie, right? 93.
Dave Craig, 14 of 20. This is pre-Bear Dave Craig. 14 of 28, 157 yards. Ran twice for -4 yards. Got sacked 5 times for 38 yards.
He could not have been their quarterback that year. They were 11-5. Maybe he was. I mean, he did lead the Seahawks to some playoffs. And actually, was he the quarterback when they faced the Chiefs the next time? Because he was the Bears quarterback in 96 when fucking Kramer got hurt and they didn't have Walsh anymore. What I remember about 96 was that was the year that the pieces were supposed to be in place for Wannstedt's Bears.
All the places are in pieces.
Yeah, and that I just remember watching this game in my apartment because the Chiefs were really good. I feel like in 96,
in 90,
and that
92. So the year before, Craig had played all 16 games. So the Chiefs were 10-6. He led the NFL in yards per completion. He only made 5 starts though in 93. Who was there? Was it? Who was there?
Who
it was Joe.
Oh, that's right.
Joe was 8-3. The Bears managed to dodge Joe Montana, and that's how they ended up winning.
Well, the Chiefs actually went to the title game that year. Montana took them there, and then they lost to the Bills again. Montana beat Buddy Ryan one more time in the Astrodome that year. That was a really good season. So it's a really inexplicable victory, which was the only kind you can describe to Dave Wanstead's success as inexplicable victories. The Bears, I think, 9-7, 7-9, whatever. But yeah, unlikely win. We'll take it. But yeah, by 96, I just remember that it was on CBS because CBS was the home ABC. Yeah. And I just remember fearing that the Bears were about to get blown off the field at any moment. I don't remember how the game turned out, but it
was still Lonnie and still Marty.
Yeah.
It was a noon kickoff in Arrowhead, and the Bears did not get blown off the field. This halftime score was 14-10 Kansas City, and that's how it finished.
Oh, it stayed that way.
Exciting second half of nothing. The ultra-back had a touchdown run. The great Jeff Jager, good old number one. Made a 49-yarder, and that was it. Nobody did anything in the second half. They just stumbled around on the field for an hour and a half, and everybody went home.
The Bears hung in there. I felt like, though, it was it's a weird thing because that was a season we had high expectations, and it was early enough where we, it felt like they were getting outclassed.
It was Dave Craig, 21 of 36, 232 yards for the Bears. Against Steve Bono.
Oh,
another former Niner playing quarterback for along with DeBerg and Montana and Bono.
Elvis Gerback?
Yep.
Elvis Gerback played for the Chiefs? Yeah. Yeah. How about that? So
because the uniforms look similar.
Looking at it,
guys like them.
I can tell you the next time that they faced, because it was opening day, and I was very excited. It was a new era. We finally got rid of Dave Wanstead, and we hire the very a little bit school-marmish Dick Duran. I always liked Dick Duran.
You were excited
but
about
he
Dick
brought
Duran?
it. No, I wasn't, but I was excited about his offensive coordinator, Gary Crowton.
Right. Gary Crowton.
And there's a very
now, I think.
this sounds totally apocryphal, but there was a very, 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 very brief moment in time where the Bears had gotten the attention of the league for their offense, and it was this very first game. They didn't score a lot of points. They were alternating quarterbacks. Shea Matthews had come back after 5 years of being a fourth-string quarterback, and their first-round draft pick, Cade McNown, was getting snaps. Both of them, I want to say, threw touchdown passes in this game. But what was introduced in this game via Gary Crowton and his quarterbacks coach, John Shoup, future offensive coordinator, was the wide receiver screen, which didn't really exist before. And as I like to joke that the Bears sort of they introduced this play in 1999, and within 4 years, they were the only team that didn't know how to use it.
Yep.
And that's still true. But early on, they were the only team that used it, and they confounded. The Chiefs had a brand new coach because I think Marty was gone, and they elevated his defensive coordinator, this curmudgeonly, just acerbic, old school Gunther Cunningham, and this motherfucker was so frothing at the mouth with these rinky-dink high school plays that the Bears were calling. Everyone on the score, like Boers and Bernstein, were ripping on Gunther Cunningham, and we were flying high, Andy, after the season opener in '99, thinking we'd finally, for once, for the first time since we invented the T formation, we're at the forefront of offensive innovation. It lasted about 2 weeks, and then we went back to what we have.
11 Bears caught passes in this game.
Yeah.
It's got to be a team record. There's no way that's not a team record. And it's a list. It's another. It's a who's who. It's a Hall of Fame list.
Can we guess? Marty Booker had to be right. Would Macy Brooks catch one?
Yep.
No, neither.
Macy
My
Brooks
first two
caught
guesses.
two.
Macy. Okay. Jesus Christ! There's no way. I mean, obviously the running backs. I mean, I don't even know who they were. Is Curtis Enos still there?
Yes. Ran 22 times, 64 yards, caught 5 passes for 69 yards and a touchdown from Shea Matthews.
That was the Curtis Enos day.
Glenn Milburn caught 1 for 8. Bobby Ingram caught 6 for 53. Curtis Conway was still there, caught 9 for 88. Marcus Robinson, 4 for 47. Is this his NFL debut?
Probably. He had to be.
No, he'd been there a year.
Absolutely.
He played 3 games in 98.
Okay, fine. But he ended up with like 1,400 yards that year, which is like pretty insane.
Macy Brooks, 2 for 28. Ryan Wetnight, 2 for 25. The great fullback Ty Halleck, 1 for 3. Only 9 caught passes. 2 more were targeted. John Allred, 1 for 1, and a touchdown. Made it count. Also from Shane. Unfortunately, Cade didn't throw a touchdown pass. And Alonzo Mays and Edgar Bennett both got targeted but didn't catch a pass.
Okay.
Shane, who probably didn't throw the ball more than 3 yards in the air on any pass.
Couldn't throw the ball more than 3 yards.
Was 25 of 38 for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. Cade was 6 of 9 for 77.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were flying high. And then, like, Mike Holmgren, who was on the rules committee, was, like, starting to, like, plant in people's heads. Maybe what they're doing is illegal, for their week 2 matchup. And then they got stymied. And then, like I said, it was just short-lived, but the Chiefs were the opponent.
The Bears kicker that day is a guy I don't remember.
It's not Chris Bonial. You remember Chris Bonial. I don't mean for you to launch into when he kicked 7 field goals.
Yeah, everybody can, the listeners can all recite that story by now. Brian Goins from Northwestern. He only kicked in 2 games. He was 4 for 6. So
they went into the season with that. Who was the regular kicker after that?
Took over? Was somebody hurt? Maybe a little hammy?
We're still a few years before Robbie Gould.
It was. Oh, they had 4 kickers that year. Bonial, as Pat Summerall liked to say. Jeff Jager, who had been there 3 years before, right? Didn't we? It was the last Chiefs game. Brian Goins and Jarrett Holmes.
Nope, don't remember. Sorry.
Holmes was 2 for 2. He never missed an NFL kick. That a boy. And then the punter, of course, was the great Todd Sauerbrunn.
Still had Sauerbrunn in 99. Okay. So realignment then with let's see here, with after the 2001 season meant that they were no longer going to play every 3 years, but every 4 years, and I believe it would begin in 2003. And that would actually be, unless you wanted to hit up.
I was going to say, have we ever done this? It feels like it's something we've done. Do we ever look for guys who got drafted after Todd Sauerbrunn? Todd Sauerbrunn, for those of you who might not know, a 2nd round draft pick punter by the Bears. The 56th overall pick. Guys taken after him include Patriots multiple-time Super Bowl. No, I don't think maybe did. I probably played in the one they lost with Purcell's Ted
Andre
Johnson.
Brown? Oh, yeah.
Cordell Stewart went number 60 for future. The Bears righted that wrong.
Well, they sure did.
Okay, there's a Hall of Famer picked 18 picks after him. Curtis Martin wouldn't have helped the Bears.
Yeah. And it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, look who's in charge.
Maybe it was a good pick. It wasn't.
I mean, it's also the same draft that they picked Pat Riley. I mean, not a banner day. None of those drafts are banner days.
Pat Riley won 9 titles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually 10, I think. I think 1 as a player and then 9 is. Oh, not that Pat Riley. This was the Pat Riley they drafted who had a torn ACL.
Yes.
And Wani was like, oh, he's a tremendous value because he's hurt. He would have gone a lot higher. No, he wouldn't have. It's Curtis Martin is the guy they should have picked instead of Todd Sauerbrunn.
Oh, would have been nice because they drafted Salam already. See, they didn't have to draft Curtis Martin. They drafted Salam in the same draft. So, up yours, Andy.
This is when the 99. This is the era when Pro Football Reference can't list a general manager on the sheet. So they have. This is what they write: Vice President of Personnel / de facto General Manager Mark Halley. That's literally what they write.
Yeah. How embarrassing.
And not only Gary Crowton, not only a tremendous coordinator, but his counterpart on the defense, putting bullets in people's lockers.
Greg Blash?
Greg Blash.
In 99, yeah, he was still there in 01. Greg enjoyed some success. Of course, Crowton was gone, went back to BYU, and Shoup was their coordinator when they actually made a hiccup of a playoff appearance in 01. So, but when they faced the Chiefs again, the leagues had realigned. The Bears had another quarterback named Rex Grossman, who was making his 3rd NFL start. He looked really good. I was at Grossman's first game against the Skins a couple years earlier against his former college coach, Steve Spurrier's Redskins. It looked really good. You could tell, wow, the guy's got a pretty good arm for a short, fat guy. Yeah. And then all I remember about the Chiefs-Bears game in 03 is the last game of the season. The Bears were packing it in, and Grossman got hurt in the game, and it didn't matter because the season was over. That's all I got. But the next time they played, the Bears were the defending conference champions. What's that?
Pro Football Reference does not want to load that box score for me. They do not want me to see Rex's brilliance. We're going to have to try this again here.
Oh, well, I don't think it was brilliant. His first 2 games were impressive, but yeah, he got hurt. I don't know what else would have happened. All I remember with that game was I was in Michigan driving around. I was in Holland, and I couldn't get a beer because it was Sunday, but I could get a Jack and Coke.
Let's see. We got it now. Oh, Rex was merely one of 3 quarterbacks to play for the Bears that day.
Oh. This is 2003, so Cordell, the aforementioned, no? Or
yes, Cordell, right. Ultraback. And guy who was actually pretty good for the Bears in one season, but his concussion history caught up with him.
Crystal Chandelier?
Crystal Chandler, yep. He started, apparently. He was Chandler threw for 81 yards, Cordell threw for 86, and Rex was 6 of 10 for 31 yards. He was sacked once and lost 18 yards.
Oof.
An 18-yard sack.
That would also be the last game of Dick Duran's career. Lovey would be there the next year. He'd bring in Terry Shea. Sorry.
I don't blame the Bears for firing Duran when he couldn't get any. How do you not win a lot of games with this skill position core? You had the A train, Anthony Thomas, Robbie Abdullah, Bobby Wade, David Terrell, Marty Booker, good player, Des Clark, who was there forever, Stanley Pritchett, and Ahmad Merritt. I mean, come on. How are you not averaging 40 points a game with that bunch? Sorry, Dick, you deserve to get whacked.
Well, and that I don't even know who his OC would have been in that last season. Maybe still Shoup went down with the ship. I just know that Terry Shea, I believe, came from Kansas City after this season. That didn't work out.
Yeah, the offensive coordinator in his last season was John Shoup.
Yeah, so
the offensive coordinator in 2004 was Terry Shea, and of course he brought his own superstar quarterback with him,
Jonathan Quinn. That's right,
the greatest. We've chronicled the great. That's a Kansas City connection because that's where they both came from. When have the Bears ever gone wrong hiring Kansas City offensive coordinator?
They're going to keep doing it till they get it right, just like Matt Millen and wide receivers.
All right, so what was the next matchup? 07?
Yeah, so I was at this game. Bears were defending conference champions. Grossman was the echo, so one of the few where a few periods of time were the same quarterback.
The huge flag was on the field, all the good stuff.
Yep. Nothing to recall here. The Bears won. Did Hester return a punt for a touchdown? I thought he might have. That's all I can remember.
He did. 73 yards.
Yeah. Okay, so I did get to see Devin Hester.
Bears got up 17-0 and ended up winning 20-10.
Okay.
John St. Clair, 2-yard pass from Rex. Devin, 73-yard punt return, and Robbie Gold made a 47-yard field goal.
I just realized what
Bears
the next game is.
Bears were 12-point favorites.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Just like they were 12-point dogs last week.
The coach of the Chiefs?
In 2007?
Hello.
The Dick Vermeil?
Hello. You play to win the game. Herm Edwards.
Oh, so Vermeil had come and gone. Remember Dick Vermeil was the coach of the Chiefs too?
So the Bears just avoided the Dick Vermeil
I guess so.
era in Kansas. Of course, it was like 2 years, right? Easy to avoid.
Yeah, and they were okay.
A lot of crying.
Okay.
You know, I guarantee you Peanut Tillman could have made Dick Vermeil cry. If he made the Floos cry, imagine what he'd do to Vermeil. Let's see. That was a good team for Kansas City. Their quarterbacks were Damon Heward and Brody Croyle.
You know what's worse? Their quarterbacks in 2011 were even worse, and they beat the Bears. And it was a Bears team that should have absolutely gone to the conference title game again for the second straight year had Jay Cutler stayed healthy. This game drives me crazy. There are so many games in 2011. This game probably more than any other. There's this game and the Raiders game. No, not the Raiders game. Sorry, the Broncos game when moment of silence. Marion Barber ran out of bounds. Yeah. That streak when Cutler was like playing like an MVP, and then he got hurt. They had that string of AFC West teams, and they played the Chargers.
Which
injury
was this? That was the time he got hurt tackling the guy in the interception, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Thumb.
Maybe. I don't know. I just know that he was like the Bears had like out of nowhere gone to the title game the year before when Jay got hurt, and Jay was playing like an MVP, and they beat the Chargers and Phillip Rivers, really good game. Like, we're getting to November, and then he gets hurt, but it's like, oh, okay, the Bears had a cushion. And then we're going to go through these AFC West teams that all suck at this point. Now, the Chiefs were not good that year. Neither were the Raiders or the Broncos, but they lost the first game of the Raiders. Fine, you can lose one. You should take the next two. And so I don't know if it was the Chiefs was the next one or the Broncos, but the Chiefs one was – I just remember watching at my dad's house, and it was like Tyler Palko was the quarterback, and they couldn't do shit. And the Bears couldn't do shit because Caleb Haney sucked. And the Bears, they were just this is a team that was like 7-2 at one point, and they can't move. And they're getting into this taffy pull. And then right before the fucking half, or at one point, Kyle Orton comes. The whole thing was like weird, and like you wanted to laugh, but you knew it might be like bad mojo to laugh because we knew we were better than the Chiefs. Chiefs are not good. Kyle Orton comes in and like, oh my God, this is after we let go of him, and he'd gone, to Denver and had a 4-0 start, and then this and that, and now he's the Chiefs, and he comes in on his very first pass, he gets rushed and he like breaks his hand, he hits his hand on a guy's helmet, comes right back out. Oh, we got to put the shitty powder. It was just the whole thing was like the bad football. But right before halftime, fucking Palko throws up a Hail Mary. Urlacher, shame on him. He was in the end zone, and the Chiefs caught it. And it was like, and the Bears could not score. The other thing that happened in this game, it's not in the box score. This is why I will go to my grave swearing Roy Williams' name. Not Roy Williams, the defensive back. Roy Williams, the shitty-ass receiver who is one of the many aforementioned Matt Millen wasted first-round draft picks out of Detroit. The one time is with the Bears, Haney, in a very brief moment of competence in this fucking game against a far inferior opponent the Bears should have walked away with, finally, like, strings together a handful of plays and gets them inside the 10. And he throws a pass to Williams at like the 1. And not only does that motherfucker not catch it, but he bats it up into the air, and the Chiefs intercept it in the end zone, not even at the 1. And they end up losing that. Just a game that just fumbled, even with Haney. Like they had no. This is why I was like, Lovey, I don't know, man. It was not a good Chiefs team. It was an otherwise very good Bears team that just didn't have a quarterback, and probably not the best coached, but. One of just the more painful regular season games I remember watching.
Final play of the game was the Bears had the ball 1st and 10 on their own 20, 6 seconds to go. And Haney, he went to the best player on the team, threw incomplete, intended for Sam Hurd. Got intercepted by Javier Arenas at the Kansas City 34. So that's a long pass for Caleb threw from the 20 to the third, from his own 20 to their 34. He had the creepy mustache. Okay.
Wow. I'm trying to work
there it is. So 6:31 to go in the fourth quarter. Haney completes a 9-yard pass to Devin Hester. Haney completes a 5-yard pass to Earl Bennett. Haney completes a 15-yard pass to Johnny Knox. Haney completes a pass to Johnny Knox for 17 yards. 1st and 10 at the 13. Pass incomplete, short middle intended for Roy Williams, intercepted by John McGraw.
Yeah. So it wasn't 1st and goal, but they were down there for the first time. It just killed him. Like he was open. It hit him in the hand. Like it wasn't deflected. He was the only person responsible for batting the ball up in the air. But not only does he not catch it, but he leads it to an interception that wasn't even at the 1. It was like everything that you just could not afford to have there. That's why I will curse that guy's name till the day I die.
Yeah, so that the Hail Mary from Tyler Palko to Dexter McCluster. And that was the one that Chris Conte batted back into the field of play instead of out of the end zone. And
that's it. Good.
McCluster caught it at like the 2 and walked in with it. It's like there was no time left. It was literally a Hail Mary at the end of the half. You're not gonna. What are you gonna? You gonna run it back 99 yards? No, just bat it into the fucking stands. He hit it back into the field right at a Chief.
As if I needed another reason to hate Chris Conte. Let me tell you something. Ryan Dempster shows his face around town, even though we both have documented that in 2 separate seasons, his dumbass pitched the Cubs out of the playoffs.
Honestly,
the Bears
they should activate him for the end of this one.
The Bears missed the playoffs. The Bears missed the playoffs in 2011. What basically boiled down to one game. They win this game, they're probably in. And then in 2013, Conte can't cover Aaron Rodgers, whoever right? Was that the? Or
Yeah,
am
it was
am I conflating? Whatever. But
He was
it
playing
Conte, though.
man.
The
Everybody else was
coverage.
playing zone, and Cobb ran right by him. And
So just like Ryan Dempster, Chris Conte is personally responsible for driving the Bears out of the playoffs in 2 separate seasons. So good, glad to read. Thanks for like that finishing stroke by bringing in Chris Conte. All I remember was that they completed a Hail Mary, and they otherwise could not move the ball the entire day, and that Hail Mary proved to be the difference in the game. So thanks, Chris Conte.
2015, maybe the highlight of the John Fox era.
They
Bears
win?
go to KC against Andy Reid's Chiefs. Beat them 18-17.
Okay.
Guess who was kicking for the Chiefs that day? How do you lose with this guy kicking for you? Cairo Santos.
Oh, our future friend.
Talk about ships passing a night. Robbie Gould kicking for the Bears. Cairo Santos kicking for the Chiefs.
Well, and you pointed out Cairo did kick for John Fox. It must have been 2017, right?
Yes, he kicked in Fox's final season, and he got hurt.
He called it.
And
he called him Carlos Santos.
Yeah, Carlos Santos. And had he not gotten hurt, they would not have signed little Cody Parkey. And Cairo wouldn't. Cairo wouldn't have hit the fucking. It would have been no double doink. He'd have drilled it, and you're on to LA to play the Rams.
This thing just gets worse.
Yep.
Which brings us to 2019, I guess.
Oh, we didn't really talk about 2015.
2015.
I know you didn't.
Well,
you didn't watch it.
No, but I have no recollection. I blacked out during the John Fox era. I don't know anything.
Oh, come on. You don't remember Jaquiz Rogers?
No, that name just sounds gross.
Williams, Cam Meredith.
No. Cameron Meredith.
Martellus Bennett, Josh Bellamy, Kari Lee, Mark Mariani, Zach Miller, and Jeremy Langford.
Martellus. Yeah,
they all carried the ball for the touched the ball for the Bears.
Martellus, I have found out like he would be our vestige of that brief period where the Bears, could have almost gone to the Super Bowl, right? 2013. Yep. Probably not as far back as 2010, but okay.
He was 26 of 45 for 252 yards and 2 touchdowns. Going up against Alex Smith. 16 of 30, 181, a touchdown.
Okay.
This was Andy Reid rebuilding the Chiefs. They were not good.
Yes.
They would finish that season. Let's see. Oh my God! How about this?
No,
that loss.
They went to the playoffs.
That loss made them 1-4, and they went 11-5. They went 10 of their last 11.
Yeah. Well, and because the team the next year was the team that went to the playoffs where Matt Nagy got the job.
How about this? They lost the next week to the Vikings. They were 1-5. They won 10 in a row. And
finished the season.
They won their wild card game against the Texans and then lost in the divisional against 27-20 to the Patriots. And the Bears beat them.
Of course. Yeah, just like in '93 when Joe Montana led that team to the conference title game.
So the Chiefs that year won their first game against the Texans. Then they lost to the Broncos, the Packers, the Bengals, the Bears, and the Vikings. So they lost to 3 of the 4 NFC North teams and still won a playoff game. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Of course, they had Matt Nagy on the staff, so how can you go wrong?
Good point. Although in 2015, Doug Peterson was their OC, I see. But, that he would
Matt
flee.
was glorified quarterback, ball washer, real estate, and whatever.
And actually, Brad Childress was their coordinator. I'm just flipping through. Was their coordinator in 2016. They didn't even promote Nagy when Peterson got the Eagles job. They're like, he never was their coordinator, was he? Because he went from quarterbacks coach to the Bears, right? No,
he was the coordinator that last year, but he didn't call the plays until the end of the season, and Andy finally gave it to him. And then, of course, what he's most remembered for was they blew that huge lead in the playoffs to the Titans when, with the big lead, he refused to run the ball. And Marcus Mariota led a comeback and hit in the last game.
Well, it's a Chief fact.
Let's see. So now we go to the last time these teams played.
Yes.
And Matt
Nagy,
I
was at as the Bears coach.
Is the coach. Against his old mentor, Andy Reid.
Yep. And so I was at this game, and this is will always be my impression, because let's put this into some context here. This is the last time the Bears and Chiefs. First of all, let's put it in this context, historical. When the Bears and Chiefs kicked off at that time, you could honestly say historically, like regardless of however long before you lived, let's just put it to 1960. So from 1960, when the Chiefs began, even then, even without counting the Bears' glory years of the 40s, which is pretty much what we hang our hat on when we talk about the Bears franchise. But even then, from 1960 to 2019, you could not say, I don't feel you could say that the Chiefs were any better of a franchise than the Bears, as bad as the Bears were. Both teams had been to
two Super Bowls and won one.
And went 1-1. I'm going to say, and I should get this in here because it's technically true, and I love being over officious like Marv Levy would hate me for. The Chiefs, when the Bears played them, had never won an NFL championship. They had won a Super Bowl, Super Bowl IV, but before the leagues had not merged. Conversely, the laughable Minnesota Vikings, who have never won a Super Bowl, have actually won an NFL championship. It just so happens that they embarrassed the NFL by losing to the Chiefs in the last ever pre-merger Super Bowl. That was the Chiefs' second Super Bowl. Both of them were as AFL teams. So they'd never really actually been to the Super Bowl as an NFL team and whatnot. So you could almost say, yeah, the Bears are no worse than the Chiefs. Now, you can't say that anymore because the Chiefs have since been to 3 Super Bowls, 1, 2. But also what you could tell it was going to happen by 2019. Because here was the thing for Bears fans in that game in 2019. We all know the story now. The Bears had a top 5 pick or whatever, and Deshaun Watson had his own issues, but they could have selected Pat Mahomes and said they select Trubisky. In the first couple of years, you couldn't really tell. I mean, you could, but you didn't think any team was worse for it. By the time these teams met in 2019, the argument was over because Mahomes was on his way to a Super Bowl championship. I'm pretty sure he won the MVP in 2019. He had an incredible year the year before. It was only Tom Brady that stopped them from him going to the Super Bowl in his second season, right? Because he was a rookie in 2017. He was a rookie the same year as Mitch, and Mitch was playing for Fox in 2017. So Mahomes is a rookie. Nagy's their coordinator. In his very second season, he goes all the way to the title game, doesn't get there because of Brady, wins it all. But a few weeks before he wins it all, they come to Soldier Field. So it's going to happen. Like Mahomes is already the argument is not going to be made anymore for Mitch because at this point, even though Mitch took him to the playoffs the year before, had a statistically good season, it was such a bad 2019 season that you could see the two quarterbacks diverging. They're in better systems. Mahomes is just better. You did not need. There was no case to be made for Trubisky. Nevertheless,
I don't know. I
can
make a case for Mitch.
Go ahead. Go ahead. At this point in time,
Patrick Mahomes didn't drive his grandma's Camry, and Patrick Mahomes didn't because the Bears didn't take him out to dinner. They didn't meet with him other than at the draft, other than at the combine. He didn't make reservations other than the name James McMahon. They got a draft.
Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Bears actually had the 3rd pick and traded up to the 2nd pick because they had to get
That's
Mitch.
what it was.
Nobody could sneak up and get him.
Yeah.
Mahomes won MVP in his first year as a starter.
2018. So he's reigning MVP when he's in Soldier Field this
and
night.
And the only reason he didn't go to the Super Bowl his first year as a starter was because, if you remember, the Chiefs intercepted Tom Brady to clinch the game, but defensive end Frank Clark was called offsides, nullified the play. Brady took him down, tied the game, and the Patriots won in overtime.
That's some heartbreak. Okay. Yeah. So he's already there. It's not going to happen. There's nothing that was going to happen at this point. But now I remember sitting in my seat and just think, okay, can we at least, I know that's not the argument here. Not that it needed to be said. And this is what I watch in my seats. The Bears had the ball first. So I don't know if you're pulling up the football reference. And what I remember was that the Bears were they were taking 3 plays every series to get a first down. They were getting first downs, right? So it was this is the end of a season in which they're all right. So there's this tiny germ of optimism. Well, maybe Mitch won't be so bad. So it's just they were trying so hard. They get the ball at their 20 and they're on 3rd and short. We got the first down at our 30. Okay. And then they push it further, right? And they get to the 40. And we're okay, a little edge in that could. Yeah, they got Mahomes. That's okay. Mitch is going to turn around. And then the drive, of course, inevitably stalls across the 50, right? And I was, okay, pat on it. That's all right, man. And all of a sudden, Mahomes takes the field, and it was like a fucking video. And the contrast could not have – I'm not trying to even be obnoxious. The contrast could not have been more stark. It was like the way he stepped back confidently, 6-7 steps, fires it 15 yards down the field, receiver over the middle, catch it. He's in like a 3rd and 8. Oh my God, 3rd and 8. No, whereas we were like in the 3rd and 2, and it's like we're on the edge of our seats and we barely get it. Mahomes is 3rd and 8. Yeah, slightly pressured, throws it for 20 yards. And it was like it was like just watching two different sports almost on the side of the ball. And that's my impression sitting in the stands that day. Not that we needed it. Again, the argument was not going to happen, but it was just could not have been more clear at that point.
And the Bears' first possession, they converted a 3rd and 4, a 3rd and 5. Failed on a 3rd and 13, punted. Then the Chiefs drive, and the Khalil Mack, the Chiefs had driven into field goal range, and Mahomes got sacked by Mack to set up 3rd and 18. 19-yard pass to Tyreek Hill for a first down. And then he ends up, a few plays later, Mahomes runs for a 12-yard touchdown.
Yeah,
Bears 3 and out.
And then
Chiefs take a
from
field
that
goal.
point,
Bears drove all the way to Kansas City 43. And had 4th and 7 and punted. I got news for you, Matt. You might as well go for it because
it was like watching a race between a Lamborghini.
That was
and a
another
Model
long
T.
drive then that ended with a Travis Kelce touchdown catch.
Yeah. Yeah. So I misremembered something.
17-0 at halftime.
Mahomes was not like in a lot of 3rd downs. Of course, why would he be? He was, they were stuck. But the one that he was in was like that's so illustrative of the difference. 3rd and 18. That's all right. I'm a big boy. Yeah. Chiefs would go, and then since then the Chiefs have won. Too. I mean, they're a premier team now because of the quarterback. I'm only going to say to that had the Bears drafted Mahomes, I don't think he alone, as great as he is, would have made a difference. Not to be that cynical, but there's so much wrong with this franchise that.
They did.
It would not have gone like this.
They did the Mahomes family a favor by.
Right. And we're already on our 2nd quarterback since then, and now even that's questionable. And
well, I want to give you something. You made a pretty definitive thing about how Patrick Mahomes clearly better than Mitch Trubisky. I mean, come on. Can we say that? We know this? I mean, let's look at their resumes here. It's pretty close, I think. Patrick Mahomes, 5 times Pro Bowler. Been an All-Pro twice. He's won the Super Bowl twice. Been Super Bowl MVP twice. He's won the Pro Football Writers MVP twice. He won the Offensive Player of the Year award in 2018. He won the Burt Bell Award, whatever that is, in 2018. Mitch was a Pro Bowl alternate. And he won the Nickelodeon Most Valuable Player in that playoff loss to the Saints.
Did he really?
I mean, this is like, yes, fan voted. I mean, it's half of one, half a dozen of one, 6 of the other.
It really is.
I don't know that we can just definitively say that Patrick Mahomes is better than Trubisky yet.
Let's
let their careers play out.
Is still open. How many picks behind Trubisky was Mahomes taken? I'm just curious. Only 8.
He was the 10th pick. Guys picked in between them. Solomon Thomas, the Niners. Here's the funny thing about the Niners, right? They've had 2 huge draft trades. They got a haul for Mitch, and they did shit with it. None of those guys turned up.
Is that right?
Yes. They drafted Solomon Thomas with the 3rd pick, and then they got who was the guy they picked from Alabama who was like nuts, went nuts at the combine. Like, he was a really good player, but he did not last. He only lasted 1 season in the NFL. They screwed that up. I think though the best thing that came out of that trade, I think, was that I believe I remember this right. I believe they made a trade with the Saints, and the Saints used one of the Bears picks to pick Alvin Kamara. So the best player of that trade doesn't play for either the Bears or the Niners. And then the Niners completely botched the draft day trade for why am I blanking on his the quarterback they drafted instead of Fields. Why can't I think of the guy's name?
The guy from last season. What the hell is his name?
From South Dakota State or South Dakota, North Dakota, one of the Dakotas.
Yeah,
all the Dakotas.
It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it. It keeps getting hurt.
Fuck. Cowboys. Niners trade.
He's been scrubbed. Can't even think of it.
Trey Lance. Why can't I think of that?
Yeah, that's it.
They traded all those picks away to get Trey Lance, and then they just traded Trey away for a 4th-round pick. And so they screwed those 2 trades up. And still, they have the best roster in the NFC.
Yeah.
Despite completely botching 2 huge trades, they still worked out.
Wow. The Bears kind of live and die on their deals.
So now the Bears head in there in complete disarray, which is just kind of their brand.
What's the line? 12?
13.
Yeah, it's going up. Probably a record. So the Bears had a 12-point spread in 87, I think you said it was. So,
let's see. The Chiefs. Who's their all-time leading passer?
Good question. Mahomes is going to be it soon. If he's not already. He's not, right?
Nope, still this other guy.
It's not Len Dawson, right?
It is Len Dawson.
Wow. So they're a little Bears-like. How many yards?
Well, it's not Bears-like. 28,507.
Okay, yeah. That's twice as many as Cooper.
Touchdowns.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yes, it is.
I didn't know. Of course, the AFL was very pass-happy. There was a little bit of inflation there, actually. But still, that's 28,000 is ridiculous. That's even in that video game expansion league.
Lenny played 14 seasons for the Dallas Texans / Kansas City Chiefs.
Did he not start with Pittsburgh?
He did.
I thought he did. Yeah. Okay.
And he played in 12 games in 1959. Let's see, for the Steelers,
he was an actual NFL.
I wonder if he was
before
he played in 12 games, but he was 3 for 7 passing.
Yeah.
I bet he was the holder. But yeah, he threw for 28,507 yards. Well, I guess that's
pretty sick.
The record.
So that's a pretty.
Years.
I mean, Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes will knock that down.
It's funny though. I mean, it's the all-time. That's 2,000 yards a season. That's like current Bear like. Now back then, Lenny would have 4 times as many yards as any Bear.
Mahomes is already up to 20. Holy shit! Mahomes is already at 24,000. He's already almost double what Cutler was for the Bears, right?
So if he's at 24,000 yards today, he could very well pass Len by the end of the year.
He could have in week 16. Yep. That's true.
Or 17. You got an extra one.
Right.
All-time leading rusher. You know who that is? He's of more recent vintage.
Is it Priest Holmes?
No, but kind of not too far after Priest. He's very good.
Who's the other
very
guy?
Underrated.
Who's the other? Yeah, who am I thinking? I can't think of it. Just tell me.
It's Jamal Charles.
Oh yeah.
7,260 yards. So nowhere near. The Bears got him there. Walter, twice as many yards.
Correct. Priest Holmes was like a nondescript Baltimore Raven who all of a sudden blew up with the Chiefs. I remember that, just from a fantasy perspective.
Now,
he's good now?
Their all-time leading receiver is not a wide receiver, and yet
it's not Travis Kelce?
Not embarrassing, and it's not Travis Kelce, but it's not embarrassing. He's a great player, a Hall of Famer.
It's a tight end, right? Or is it a running back?
It's tight end.
Who the fuck? He's a Hall of Fame tight end for the Chiefs?
Very handsome. He's a very handsome former tight end who, if you're watching the Amazon Prime game, you would have seen him at halftime. Tony Gonzalez.
Jesus Christ.
Former Cal basketball star.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's right. UCLA, of course. Yeah, that's right. They had Tony Gonzalez. One of the all-time great tight ends.
Yeah, so they've had two of the best,
tight ends.
7 or 8 tight ends in history, Tony and Travis.
Yes.
Up there with the
for
coach.
Sure. Yeah, and John Mackey.
And Kellen Winslow the first, necessarily not Kellen Winslow the second.
And Ben Coates, my friend.
Yes, Ben Coates.
Cannon Sharp. Ben Coates is pretty
Cap
good.
Boso. And
Cap Boso. Ryan Wetnight.
John Allred.
Yeah, James Thornton. RoboCop.
Yeah, he's a great player.
But, by the way, how many nicknames do you think is acceptable Pro Football Reference?
I don't know.
Mahomes
You're
is like
looking at the
7.
Mahomes
I mean,
ones, and there's like
yeah,
7
come
of them,
on.
and they don't use any of them.
Grim Reaper.
Nobody calls him any of
Showtime,
those things.
Right. Bad Trick. Jesus Christ. Try harder.
Muppet voice is what they ought to call him.
Yes, thank you.
The all-time leading scorer for the Chiefs. Do you know who that is?
John Stenerud, right?
It's not.
Oh.
It's a guy who may have actually kicked longer than him. Even though Jan kicked there forever. This guy kicked there for...
Who the hell am I not thinking of?
This guy kicked for him for 14 years, from 1980 to 1993. Creepy little mustache.
Oh my God! Why am I not?
Dartmouth.
Nick Lowry.
Nick Lowry.
Holy crap!
Born in Munich. Not even American. It's up there with Chester Markle.
Oh. Wow. Yeah, Chester Markle. Wait a second. So I want to talk about Jan Stenerud for a minute because can we get him out of the Hall of Fame? That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. He's a Hall of Famer, right?
He is. He was the first kicker, right?
The first one who never
kicker who never didn't play anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlike
and are there
Pat
others?
Summerall.
Right. Who's right? Exactly.
I don't think being an announcer and a kicker counts for Pat as being the first kicker.
I remember Jan Stenerud at the end of his career. He kicked for both the Packers and Vikings, and before we knew that he, the Norwegian, he's in the Hall of Fame. I don't know, whatever. Probably a nice guy.
Well, he did make for his career. He did make 21% more of his kicks than John Roveto did. He made 67% of his kicks and 90. But he did not make a higher percentage. No, he did. Sorry. He made 96.5% of his extra points. John Roveto made 95%.
Bear in mind, Andy, that for several years we discovered this that the extra point was even 5 yards closer than it is today, or than it was for most of our. Right? Remember, it was because of the goalpost not being pushed back.
Right, because you could kick a.
Fred Cox.
You could kick You could kick a 8-yard field goal.
Yes, that's right.
Right, because the ball was at the 1, but where the goalposts were at the end zone.
Goalposts right there.
The goal line.
We discovered that with Fred Cox.
How Vikings, dumb was that?
We looked at it.
Somebody's like, well, we just put those on the field.
It's like Tales Hill.
It's like the gateway to the end zone. It's like a toll booth. You have to run through it.
It's so dangerous. I always cringe about someone getting paralyzed by just running into it. It's so
funny.
stupid.
I actually thought of that in the Jacksonville game over the weekend. Calvin Ridley went up for a pass and got nailed into the stanchion.
Yep.
And I was thinking, God, that must have happened 15 times a game when that thing was at the goal line. Like, why? Whose genius idea was it to put it there?
Right.
Now this is fine. Put it here.
Right.
And it was an H. So you had twice as many chances to hit it. It wasn't a.
Was it always an H by the time they moved it back? Some had gone to a Y. So nevertheless, partially buttressed by a 5-yard, shorter attempt on extra points for many years. Jan Stenerud's in the Hall of Fame.
Recent great moments in field goal history. The John Greenberg, the aforementioned John Greenberg, his Ohio Bobcats. Him and Tom Brenneman and Mike Schmidt and Bob Brenly. They upset Iowa State last week, and there was a controversial. Iowa State had a field goal that would have tied the game, and then eventually would have been overtime. Had a field goal called no good, and on the replay, even the announcers are like, "That looks like it was good." Ohio does not have. They're a poor MAC school. They do not have the extra long uprights. So,
is that right?
And a ball, you are not allowed. You cannot review a field goal whether it's good or not if it's above the uprights. And it was like a foot above the upright, and it certainly looked good. And they could not replay it, even though on the replay it was they clearly made it.
Oh my God!
Cheap bastards don't have the. I will tell you, at Husky Stadium in beautiful DeKalb, got the NFL uprights. They're not. Oh yeah, they're not. They go all out. I'm not going for that shit like they do down there.
Good to know that good old Bingham Field. Bingham Field is still compliant. Like to hear it.
All right. Well, the last thing we need to do is we need to look at the illustrious coaches
Yeah. Well, I already stumbled across the fact that Hank Stram, their charter coach, he was almost like the Tom Landry of the Chiefs. He was there all the way up until like the 74 season, I guess. But then it's a lot of flotsam. And I guess my question is, I bet you Marty Schottenheimer has more wins than Hank Stram only because he was there for a long time.
Oh, no, that's right. I didn't ask you that. The all-time winningest coach. So you're saying it's Marty.
Yes. Is it Hank?
It's Hank, 124.
Okay.
Let's see here, though. How many Marty got? Marty had some good teams.
He did. He was there for a good decade, I feel like, just about. Yeah, he wasn't there that long. Marty was a total bridesmaid because he took the Browns to 2 title games and lost. Chiefs. He took the Chiefs to a couple, I know.
Yeah, he's a 10 years, 101. 101 wins in
Okay.
10 years. So he averaged 10.
That's good. That's a good run.
23 short of Hank. Well, how about this on a technicality? Marty won more games for the Chiefs than Hank because Hank won 27 of his games for the Texans.
Dallas Texans, yes. And also Hank was in the AFL for a lot of that. So you could split hairs there.
Yeah. Hank won an AFL title and a Super Bowl.
Right, but no NFL championships. Just saying.
Their second coach, who coached for 3 years, was the great Paul Wiggin. Then Jerome Bettis' dad, Tom, coached them for a year in 1977. Marv was there from 78 to 82. He was 31 and 42.
Good run. And then was he replaced by Makovic?
Yep, Makovic.
No.
30 and 34 in his 4 seasons with a playoff appearance, a loss.
And then Frank Gansz takes you to Marty. And then Marty takes you to
2 years of
Gunther, and then
Dick
Vermeil,
was there longer than Dick was there for 5 years, and the Bears never faced him.
That's so funny. And the funny thing about Vermeil, we talked about him before, how he was like John Madden light in that he walked away from football, but unlike Madden, he actually came back after a ridiculously long time, and then they sucked for a couple years, and then he wins this unlikely Super Bowl with Kurt Warner, and then he gets forced out right after that Super Bowl, so Mike Martz could take over. And we thought, all right, well, that's a nice second act. You know, you coached a long-ass time ago when Ron Jaworski was your quarterback and Jimmy Carter was president. You're going to enjoy retirement now. And it was always kind of weird, like, oh, no, I guess he's not done. He's going to come back now when he's in his 60s and coach the Chiefs. And it wasn't a disaster. I think they were, like, decent teams. They just didn't really –
44 and 36. They went to the playoffs once and lost.
Yeah.
Then
that's excellent.
3 years of Herm, where they were bad, 15 and 33. Then the great Todd Haley.
Oh, my God.
He was there at least 2 years longer than I thought. He was there for 3 years. 19 and 26. They went to the playoffs, and they lost. He won an AFC West championship.
They must have been awful those other 2 seasons for him to have gone 19 and 26 and yet make the playoffs.
Yeah. And then Romeo Crennel got 2 years. That was the
he was the coach during the Tyler Palko game. That
was also
still drives me crazy.
The guy shot himself in the parking lot.
Oh, I think that happened the same season, maybe.
4 and
that's
15
how bad. Yeah.
For Romeo.
Okay, that's right.
And then
Andy.
So Romeo must have. They fired. Romeo was an interim and then got to be the head coach. They have never had. Never had just an interim. Yes. Tom Bettis. He was an interim.
So Romeo was the Joey Malfitano / Mike Quade. Then the Bears.
They've had one more interim coach than the Bears ever have.
Because Romeo actually did a whole season.
Things are going the way they have. Bears might get one.
Well, right. Because I think George would be like, well, I should have done that to Trustman midseason. I didn't. I'm not going to let that opportunity pass by again if it gets that bad.
And then
so
Andy
that's my
Reid,
hope, at least.
10 years, 117 and 45. He's 12 and 7 in the playoffs, 2 Super Bowls, 3 AFC championships,
He's
7
a Hall
AFC
of Famer
West,
now.
And they've been to the playoffs in 9 of his 10 years. And actually, I think year 10 is this year. So I think he made it every year.
The funny thing is, my take on this is that Andy Reid, I feel like he was not a Hall of Fame coach when he showed up at KC. And I swear this is what it felt like when he got hired. It was not a very inspiring. He kind of worn out his welcome in Philly. Like, he was an innovative coach in '99. He had Donovan McNabb. When he was a quarterback's coach for Holmgren in Green Bay. And he had a good run. They kept losing. They lost 4 consecutive conference titles. So he was a good coach.
Yeah.
Couldn't get over the hump. Took him to the Super Bowl when he got TO when they lost one of Brady's third. So I guess that was that 2004 season.
Up in the huddle.
Right. And but then eventually they became mediocre, right? Like Ditka's, and then it was like, well, yeah, Andy Reid, that was it. He had his he had his chances. And I remember when the Chiefs hired him, and the Chiefs were, they're coming off of fucking, like you just said, like Romeo Crennel, like the Todd, they were in disarray for a bit in spite of the one playoff appearance. And it almost felt like that's not the guy you want to hire. He's been around 10 years. He had a long run at Philly, couldn't do it. And then he totally took advantage of a second up. He's a Hall of Fame coach now in the last 5 years. But I swear to God, the perception at the time was it was like, oh, you don't want to hire Andy Reid. It was just his son killed himself. It was like, I don't know, maybe that was before. It just felt like he was not a hot hire, even though he had a little bit of a track record. And then given another opportunity, he's absolutely stood on his success from Philadelphia.
Well, his other son, the week between the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl, got drunk and was at the facility, got drunk, got in his car, got in a car accident, and killed somebody.
That's right. Yeah, like there's some fucked up shit going on. Yeah. It was at the Super Bowl in 2004 with the Chiefs. Is it even recently?
No, it was recently. It was the one.
Yeah. So he's still. I
think
that speaks more to the
right to the Niners.
To Brady. During the COVID Super Bowl. Yeah, so he's still dealing with that. But I just felt like, and maybe that has nothing to do with it. Just as a coach, it didn't seem like the Chiefs were really going to turn it around by hiring him at the time.
Considering the run he had in Philly and the run he's had now in Kansas City, can you name the NFL coaches who have more career wins than Andy Reid?
Overall?
It's not going to take very long.
Well, Don Shula and George Halas.
And one active.
And one Bill Belichick.
Yep. That's it. Andy is tied with Tom Landry for fourth at 270
You gotta be
wins.
Shitting me. He passed Tom
He's got
Landry.
more wins than Curly Lambeau, Paul Brown, Chuck Norris, and number 9, Marty Schottenheimer, 205.
Wow.
Where's the coach? Coach is
he had about 111 or so.
Coach is right behind Marvin Lewis.
120?
Yeah, 127.
Yeah.
Marvin Lewis, and many more seasons. Marvin won 131. Let's see, how many Bears we got on this list? We got George Halas at 3.
Halas and Ditka.
Then we
might have Lovey.
You got Abe Gibron.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
we got Jeff Fisher at 14. We count him, 178.
Not for the Bears.
No, we can't count him, I guess. How about Sean Payton? Can we count him? No, we can't count him.
No.
How about Marv? He was a blitz coach, right? Does that count?
Lovey's your next coach.
John Fox.
Ditka.
28. John Fox, 141. So there we go. Ditka. John Fox won 14 more games than Mike Ditka. Ditka at 32.
Wow.
And then there's another one. You know who this is.
I
basically just referenced him. With
Jack Pardee? Neil Armstrong? No.
No, you're right. He won't count. He won't count because he wasn't head coach of the Bears. George Allen.
Who you thinking? Oh, God, we love some George Allen talk. I'll tell you what.
That's right. He never was head coach. Lovey is 49th. 95.
Okay. Because Lovey's actually had 3 teams.
103.
The Bucks in the team.
There's a lot of guys with Bear ties on the list, but what is that? 5 head coaches? Halas.
Yes. And with 100 career, because Lovey has 100 career, right?
Fox. Jesus.
Yes. Fox, of course, remains the only Bears coach.
Lovey.
Fox is the only Bears coach who was previously a Bears coach, or previously a football coach, I should say. Ever, even still, right?
The only Bear head coach who ever had experience as a head coach before he coached the Bears.
Is that like the old Cubs converse up until Riggleman and Dusty?
Oh, you never got a job after
on the other hand, once you were a Cubs coach, you never got one. It's the converse of that. It's the
lots of Bear coaches got jobs after the Bears got rid of them.
They did.
The NFL lets guys to recycle, I guess.
I mean, just to go, everybody except for Neil Armstrong, because even Ditka did after Ditka was Wannstedt coached in Miami and University of Pittsburgh. Duran coached in Buffalo and Detroit. Yep. Yeah, he had 2 stops. Lovey had 2 stops, Houston and Tampa Bay first.
And Illinois.
And
That doesn't count.
and Mark Trustman. Did he go back to Canada? Did he win?
He did. He
Grey
won
Cup?
a Grey Cup. I'm sure he'll still get a job, right?
Will Matt Nagy get a
He'll get
job at the NFL? Well, I think he's
That's a good question.
Eberflus. Yeah, I don't know. We might be entering the era where all of a sudden they don't want to hire the Bears coaches after. I don't know. Maybe. I am starting. Not that I think anything of Matt Nagy, but the Bears are so fucked up organizationally. Like, well, maybe Nagy wasn't the problem.
No, he wasn't. He was definitely a big part of it. He's a moron. That I'm comfortable. He was a big part of the. He might be part of the current dysfunction still. He fucked things up so bad while he was there.
Things could have been pointed in a different direction if he wasn't there. Maybe. Well, we'll never know. But at least we'll get a good look at him on the sidelines on Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. That's going to be constant shots of him and the double. I wonder how many times we'll see the double doink. At least once.
Just for Matt Nagy's reaction alone.
Former Bear Greg Olson's going to be on the call too. He can talk about. He can wax nostalgic about his good friend Mike Martz, not using him and then getting him traded so that he can go on to his Hall of Fame career with the Panthers.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
I don't know. I think he's borderline as a tight end. He was a really good player. Probably not a Hall of Famer, but a really good player. Would have been nice.
He's
to
good
use for the
analyst.
Bears. He is.
I know. Yeah. So that's funny. The Bears will have the number one team for 2 out of the first 3 weeks, and they're the most.
There's plenty to talk about for those guys this week.
While they, get to also enjoy an afternoon with Pat Mahomes. So, yeah. I don't think they're going to complain.
All right. Well, this was a twofer, right? We started with embarrassing moments in Bears history, and then we got the Chiefs, which supplied a couple of the embarrassing moments, but not quite as bad. And we have to do this again next week because there's another new opponent that we haven't done. We have to do the Denver Broncos.
There are some good ones there. That'll be fun. No pain. Hopefully, there is a painful one from 2011. I guess we're gonna have to revisit all that pain from that Bears team that might have done something, but.
We get all the good. We had a lot of great Bronco quarterbacks beat the Bears, like Tim Tebow and Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, well, Brock Osweiler's famous for being the Bears with 3 different teams,
and never losing to them.
Just like
Bears never could solve the Brock Osweiler riddle.
No, I mean they even solved Tom Brady after 20 years. Yep. Couldn't solve Brock. So
that was the problem. Brock didn't give him enough shots. They needed another 14 years to take shots at him before they could beat him.
Right. Eventually they'll get it right.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Andy. See you next week.
Many of us have herpes.